what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we're doing the what's next on Joyce, the former interim heavyweight champion, following a return TKO victory over a low-level opponent as he returned from his back-to-back losses to Zhang and just got back on the winning track last weekend. Now, before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel, I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So, Joyce, came back kind of quietly, got a knockout victory to get back on the winning track ahead of a potential, of something he's hoping to be big. To get right back in the mix of things. Now, I believe he's 36, 37 years old. Remember, he's a very young veteran, if that makes sense, because he started very late in the pro ranks. So now, the big question is what's next for Joyce after he came back and got his first victory since he knocked out Joseph Parker in 2022. And what a turn we've had in that year-and-a-half time frame of Parker winning five consecutive fights in the last two against Deontay Wilder and Zhang, who ironically knocked out Joyce twice. So now Joyce goes from 2023, where he was the most feared man in the division and one step away from a title shot. Now he comes in really having to start from scratch, and he did that with a victory. But now what's going to be coming up? So let's run through the top 10 and let's see what the possibilities could be for Joyce. His highest ranking right now is number 11 by the WBC. I don't really see him getting into that title mix yet, but let's take a look and see what potentially could be there. We start with Alexander Usyk, the reigning unified heavyweight champion. This fight has no chance of happening next for Joyce. Usyk, win or lose against Fury, has an automatic rematch clause in a contract. If he, for some reason, were to get beat down by Fury, I don't think he'd come back and take on Joyce anytime soon. So this one, absolutely don't see. Then there's undefeated WBC heavyweight champion Tyson Fury. Not going to happen, win or lose. Fury is fighting Usyk in May. If he defeats Usyk, he probably is going to fight Anthony Joshua. If he were to lose, he has an automatic rematch clause, or he will take on a big-name opponent. He likely would not go back and take on Joyce. I don't see that one at all. Then there's Anthony Joshua. Would Joshua fight Joyce next? Maybe, if Joshua wanted to kind of stay busy, if for some reason he doesn't get the winner of Usyk and Fury. And I do think that's a possibility because Usyk has already defeated him twice. So if Usyk were to beat Fury, Joshua might want to take one more fight in between before he would fight against Alexander Usyk. So, I still don't think Joshua would fight Joyce, but I do think there might be a possibility that he would. Then Filip Hrgović, not likely. Hrgović looks like he's going to be challenging. For the title. Hrgović looks like he's going to be challenging for the vacant IBF title, or maybe the IBF interim championship on June 1st, depending on what happens with the Fury Usyk winner, because the winner is supposed to fight Hrgović next. Likely they won't, so the title's likely going to go vacant, and the IBF wants to put the title on Hrgović. Hrgović is supposed to be fighting Daniel Dubois, so not likely that he would fight Joyce. Then you got a third fight with Zhang. Not likely. Zhang is moving on to fight Deontay Wilder following the loss to Parker. Zhang probably, I don't even think he would consider this one after two convincing knockout victories. And I don't think Joyce would want that smoke, at least not right now. So definitely don't see that one. Then there's a rematch with Joseph Parker. And ironically, I think this one does have some legs to it. If Parker cannot get a big-time fight next, But he's got to do the dance and wait around to see what happens with Fury and Usyk in May. I don't think Parker's going to be dead set on anything until he sees what happens between those two guys in their undisputed title clash, because everything's going to revolve around who's going to fight the winner, who's going to fight the loser. And I think Parker even has his eyes on the Deontay Wilder-Zhilei Zhang winner, because the winner will probably want to get Parker back in the ring later in the year. So I as much as I think Parker wants to avenge the loss to Joyce, I don't think he's going to fight Joyce next. But he could. I do think that it is possible that Parker says, hey, fuck it, let's go fight during the summer. I want to avenge my loss. But again, I'm leaning towards the less likely. Then there's Deontay Wilder. Definitely not likely. Wilder, it looks like he's got almost a done deal with Zhilei Zhang for the Bivol Beterbiev undercard. Joyce is just not a big enough name. Zhang knocked Joyce out, so why go after a guy that's already been knocked out by the guy that Wilder wants to fight in a huge fight? Then there's Daniel Dubois in a rematch. Well, Dubois has worked himself back up, and since the Usyk loss, he has mapped out a potential rematch with Joyce in the future, but it's not next. And Dubois looks like he's taking on Filip Hrgović next for either the vacant IBF title or potentially the IBF interim belt, as they wait around to see what happens with the winner of Fury and Usyk when they fight in May. Then there's Ajit Kabayel, the undefeated contender on the rise, and former European champion. That one could be possible, but I think right now might be a bad matchup for Joyce just coming back. But then again, maybe that's what he needs to put himself back in that mix. Kabayel had a nice win back in December over that undefeated fighter who was on the rise. So, people are looking Kabayel's way now. Then there's Martin Bakole. These are guys outside the top 10. Martin Bacole's currently #1 in the WBA. Supposed to be getting a title shot at some point. I don't think he would fight Joyce, but he might, just to make a name for himself and put himself in that serious mix. Because right now, nobody's going to get a clear-cut shot at anybody anytime soon if you're not a big name. Frank Sanchez, would be a good test for Joe Joyce if Joyce was ready for it. Sanchez more of a boxer, though. Joyce might not want that kind of matchup, so I'm leaning towards the less likely. Jared Anderson, that would be huge. If Anderson and Joe Joyce got together to really lock down a top spot, that would be huge for Joe Joyce right now. I'm leaning towards the less likely, but I do think it's a possibility because both these guys have something to prove in 2024. Then there's F.A. Ajagba. Another one that I could see happen. It'd be an easy fight to make because Joyce works with Top Rank and ESPN. Ajagba's right there. But I also believe that Top Rank might line Ajagba up with Jared Anderson instead. But again, Ajagba being right there, wanting to work himself back in the mix, and Joe Joyce being, a guy with the same, tied promoter, he might want to prove himself against a guy like Ajagba and go for that fight. So we'll see. Then there's Lenier Pero, who's the WBA's #5. Again, you never know. Maybe Joyce might want to build himself back up against a guy who's ranked high, in one of the governing bodies just to get a high ranking. Andy Ruiz Jr. I don't think Andy Ruiz would fight Joe Joyce. Not a big enough name for Ruiz. And Ruiz hasn't fought in well over a year and a half now. It's been over a year and a half now. And he's been very inactive since the back-to-back fights in 2019 against Joshua. He's only fought twice. So I don't think he'd want to come back after over a year and a half off and take on a guy like Joyce. And then there's Francis Ngannou. I doubt he would fight a guy like Joe Joyce unless he just wanted to get back in the mix of things by fighting a guy with not as big of a name. So Joe Joyce, in terms of top 10 or top 15 guys, really, realistically, there's only a couple guys. I think top 10, maybe Joseph Parker fights him in a rematch to avenge that loss in the top 10. Outside of the top 10, I really think F.A. Ajagba, because they're tied with the same promotion, and maybe Jared Anderson might entertain him. But Joe Joyce has a long road ahead of him to get back into the mix. We'll see if he does that, and we'll see if next he can get a top 10 to 15 guy. If not, I think we'll see him back in maybe 3 months to continue to knock people out and shake off the rust in those 2 losses at the hands of Zhilei Zhang. So that's it. That's what I got. That's my what's next on former interim heavyweight champion of the world, Joe Joyce, following his return TKO victory a couple weeks ago. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.